Hello. Welcome everybody to another episode of Make Exchange. Hi, Johnny.
How's it going?
It's going all right. How you doing?
Pretty good.
Yeah?
I'm ready to be spooked.
Wow. I don't know if I'm ready to bring it.
Oh, no.
I don't know if no, I'm just kidding. Of course I'm going to bring it. Not only
You always
are
bring
gonna-
it.
We're going to get spooky today. We're going to get scary. We're going to talk about some people's phobias. My personal phobia, snakes. Are you afraid of snakes?
You know, it's hard to say. I've never really been.
It's not hard to say. It's a yes or no question.
If I'm like near a snake, I don't really care.
When they're not around is when it gets real scary.
No, like if I'm like standing somewhere and a fucking king cobra's there, I'm definitely scared.
Wait. I've only seen a king cobra at a zoo behind glass.
Yeah.
That doesn't scare me.
No, I meant like if I'm in the wild and like a rattlesnake or something shows up, I would be terrified.
Oh, okay. Have you ever been in the wild and seen a rattlesnake?
Rattlesnake? No.
King cobra?
No. In
Black mamba?
I wish.
Asp.
No. I've seen like garden snakes.
Pit viper.
Oh,
I'm trying to think of
more snakes?
venomous snakes that actually exist. Okay, garden snake.
Yeah, I've seen some garden snakes.
Are those the ones that terrify you?
No, I like garden snakes. I would chase them into the woods.
Sounds like you're not afraid of snakes.
No, I'm more afraid of like spiders, I would say.
Yeah. Well, spiders are scary too. I am afraid of snakes traditionally.
Okay.
You know, if I saw a snake, I like to think I'd be able to handle myself,
Mm.
but probably not. I'd probably like cry and shit my pants and jump on a chair and squeal. I'm not good around snakes. I grew up in a part of town, San Diego, Southern California, where we do have rattlesnakes. So
Okay.
I would encounter them often. One time I was at my house and I came out the front door and there was this wall on the side of the yard, and there was like this little like hole in the wall, and there was a snake's body that was coming out of the hole in the wall, but the snake was trying to climb down the wall and was like trying to go behind some trash cans.
Uh-huh.
So I couldn't see the head of the snake.
Yeah.
I couldn't see where it began or where it ended. It was just this snake body. It like, from my perspective, looked unending, just slithering out of this hole behind this trash can, and that haunted me. That messed me up. That site, it was like no good. I couldn't like walk there for like weeks. I was like, yeah, I'll go around the other side of my house through the bushes. No snakes there.
I have the same thing, but with bees. One time when I was in camp, a kid drank a soda. Like he had we were doing like a field trip, and the kid left the can of Coke, and he drank it, and there was a bee in it, and it stung his mouth. And ever since then, if I leave a soda out, I have to take my iPhone flashlight and look, and there's like a fly or something in there.
The bee inspector.
The bee inspector.
The reason I'm bringing up snakes is because today's episode was going to be about South American cryptids.
Oh, yeah.
And, in South America, one of the most famous cryptids is the Titan boa.
Okay.
The largest snake on Earth to ever exist was the Titan boa.
Mhm.
Currently, they say the Titan boa is extinct, quote unquote. And so the current largest snake on Earth would be the green anaconda. You may remember this from the movie Anaconda.
Yeah.
You ever seen that movie?
Yeah, we watched it together, remember?
Yeah, Jennifer Lopez.
Yeah.
John Voight.
John Voight, he's always like the whole movie.
Yeah, he's like pretending to be French,
Yeah.
like Creole. He's like, "You're not prepared for this snake, mon ami." If I remember correctly.
I think we should just listen to Donald Trump, see what he has to say.
No, the real snake. Anyways, some people say the Titan boa still exists. And that was going to be, what this episode was about. Does the Titan boa exist? Does
Uh-huh.
it not exist? Well, let's just cut to the chase. Most people think it doesn't exist.
Okay.
They think it went extinct between 58 and 60 million years ago. And so they know it exists because they found some fossilized records of its vertebrae. The Titan boa is about as wide as this table
Oh my
here,
God.
front to back, and it could be like 40 feet long. So it would probably go across this whole room, or 4 times as long as your average bedroom, right? Because your bedroom is like 10 to 12 feet wide, maybe if you live in a nice big room. So imagine 4 times that.
Okay.
and as wide as a little, nice little desk. That's the Titan boa. That thing,
Yeah.
swallow you up in one gulp, rip you apart, sink its fangs into your eyeballs.
I don't want fangs in my eyeballs.
Yeah. Thank God the thing doesn't exist.
Yeah, thank God. This is reminding me of like the giant squid where they were like they couldn't find a live one.
Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah.
The giant squid was said to be a monster of the ocean,
Yeah.
like a kraken, just this legendary creature that pirates and sailors would talk about from like the 1700s, the 1800s. They'd go out whaling and they'd be like, well, we see the whales fighting giant squids sometimes, but people thought they were just old sailors' tales.
Yeah.
And then in like 2006, they found a giant squid for the first time ever.
Yeah.
Just very recently. That actually had a significant effect on me. I remember that news story, and it kind of inspired me in some way to make this show all these years later.
Really?
Not directly, but that really did kind of get me interested in the idea of legends that could be true, and we explore a lot of that stuff on this show.
I mean, they say most of the world's oceans have been like, we've only explored like I don't want to say an exact number, but like a small percentage.
Yeah.
So we never know. We currently don't know what's actually down there.
Speaking of legends that could be true, it's the reason why this episode is not actually about the Titan boa.
Uh-huh.
Because in doing some research, I found a story that I think is way more fascinating than do these giant snakes exist or not. And this story is about an explorer named Percy Fawcett, who says he saw a Titan boa in 1925.
Mm-hmm.
But Percy Fawcett later disappeared in the Amazon searching for a lost city, which he called Z.
Oh,
and I actually
City of Snakes.
City of Snakes. I actually find this to be a way more fascinating story.
Okay.
So I just want to share the story of Percy Fawcett
Sure.
with everybody today. And along the way, maybe we'll get some Titan boa facts and some other cryptids. Percy Fawcett was a British explorer who was born in 1867. And his brother was like an author, a renowned author and occultist. And he would write these adventure books.
Okay.
So Percy, I like to think, may have been inspired by his older brother who was writing all these adventure books. Percy says, you write the stories? Well, I'm going to live the stories.
Okay.
It wouldn't be a Mega Strange episode.
Any podcast.
If I didn't get a notification right in the middle. It's almost,
It's good luck.
it is good luck. It's the sign of a good episode. His father was also a member of the Royal Geographical Society, which in England, everything is some sort of royal society. They take the word Royal Society and then they put the most boring word in the middle.
Yeah.
It's like Royal Lawnmower Society, for all like the gardeners out there. And Royal Pencil Sharpener Society.
Dude, I want to join that one.
The RPS.
Nothing feels better than having like a nice sharpened pencil.
Exactly. We need these sharp pencils to make progress happen.
Never mind.
Yes.
I was just gonna bring about nothing, dude. Remember in school when like you just had to get up and go to that wall sharpener and just make like so much fucking noise and like sharpen your pencils? Did you have those?
Yeah, dude. I loved going
Me too.
To the wall sharpener.
But it'd be like my teachers would always I would always have to raise my hand to go to it because it was so fucking loud.
Oh, I would go to that thing just to blow off some steam.
Yeah, same.
I'd be there working on a paper and then I'd be like, life is too monotonous sometimes. You just press really hard on your pencil, you break the tip on purpose.
Yeah.
Ooh, now I got an excuse to get out of my seat. And I would milk this for as long as possible. I would go over to the pencil sharpener. It's mounted on the wall. And it always had like the calibration wheel on it.
Yeah.
Even though every pencil on Earth is the same fucking number 2 pencil, this thing had like 9 different pencil calibrations in there. So I would just cycle through them, just because I was like, oh, I want to make sure this is like finely tuned to my pencil.
My favorite was always when it got full, having to empty it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just fun to open it and seeing all the different pencil shavings. Also, I would try to do it as slow as possible. See how. Did you ever get a pencil stuck in one of those? Like it was too small and you tried to get it in?
Too small.
I would have pencils like this small sometimes, and I would just try to get it in. And
Oh, yeah.
it would just get stuck in there.
No, I wasn't asking for trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, because the thing was screwed to the wall. They would have
Yeah.
to like unscrew it and like you can't tilt it to shake it out.
I hope kids nowadays still have to use those. I hope they're still in schools.
The cool thing after when I was in middle school was like the suction cup pencil sharpener. You put it on your desk and you like,
Oh, yeah.
suck it down, and then you could just do it right there from the table. You don't have to get up.
Yeah, that was the baller move when you had your own.
And also mechanical pencils.
Oh, yeah. Kids in my school would hit their mechanical pencil, so it was super long, and they'd be like, check it out, I'm doing heroin. And then they would like hold it and put it into their arm, like, and like it would go in.
Kids at your school were pretty advanced.
Yeah, I'm thinking back at it, I'm like, that's probably fucked up that they were doing
They're
that.
pretty cool. Kids at my school would get pixie sticks. They'd be like,
Oh,
yo,
yeah,
check it
snort
out.
'em?
It's a drug. And they'd
Yeah,
snort
dude.
pure sugar and
bad.
cry.
It's a bad time. Anyway, sorry, derailed from Percy.
Yeah, Percy Fawcett was also friends with Arthur Conan Doyle.
Wow.
I believe that's the guy who wrote Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Bones.
Sherlock Bones. But Percy, being an explorer of the Amazon, lent his notes to Arthur Conan Doyle, and these are the notes that inspired the book The Lost World, which the name was stolen
Yeah, I
for
was about
the
to say.
Steven Spielberg Jurassic Park sequel. All of that is just to say that Percy Fawcett was like a well-known and well-respected adventurer in his time.
Mhm.
And he was obsessed with the Amazon jungle and South America.
Okay.
This was in the turn of the century, like 1900, like 1910, 1911. In fact, actually, his first expedition to South America was in 1907. You see, as I has previously mentioned, his father was a member of the Royal Geographical Society, and they were in charge of making maps.
Okay.
And so he sent his son Percy on a trip to go map out the Amazon. And it was on this trip in 1907 that Percy claims to have seen and shot a 62-foot-long snake that was 6 feet wide,
Damn.
which would be a Titan boa.
He murked that fool.
It would be a Titan boa. He says that he shot it and killed it.
Where's the body?
This claim resulted in him being ridiculed by scientists.
I bet.
Yeah, nobody believed him. They all made fun of him. But that wasn't the only cryptid he claimed to have seen. He also says that he saw a cat-like dog about the size of a foxhound, which he says he saw twice. And he says he saw something called the giant Apazuaka spider, which is said to have poisoned a number of local people.
I want to hear about that. No spiders.
Yeah. He made a bunch of expeditions in the early 1900s, making maps about South America. And he brought two people with him. His close friend, whose name I don't have off the top of my head right here, and his son. And he only brought two people with him because he was afraid of, if he had too big of a crew, maybe there would be a mutiny or something. He had to
Okay.
have people he could trust because he was going into the jungles and communicating with like the local tribes.
Okay.
And he had to be very precarious about how he acted. He would always bring gifts to pay tribute to the chiefs because that was the custom if they were going to be bringing strangers in. And he was renowned for being patient and very good at operating with the locals.
Mm.
And he was able to map out an extensive part of the Amazon jungle just traveling the rivers. He was able to travel further into the Amazon just sailing up the rivers than anybody who had come before him.
Okay.
And while he was doing this, he started to hear rumors of an ancient city of gold.
El Dorado.
It was El Dorado.
Oh.
It was El
Oh,
Dorado.
really?
It really was. It was the city of
Hell
El Dorado. Europeans had come to South America for the first time in like the 1500s,
Okay.
about 400 years before Percy had arrived. And this was the first time they had encountered like the Incas and the native people of Mexico.
This is sounding very similar to that Disney movie.
The Road to El Dorado.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is kind of the story of El Dorado.
Okay. That's
It
cool.
was these conquistadors, Hernan Cortez and
Yeah.
his men, who first met these natives, and they were given gold plates and silver plates and gold armor. Basically, the natives of South America had more gold than these guys could like ever imagine. And
Okay.
it was in all of their art. They had so much gold that it was just like kind of casually used
Yeah, I
in
bet.
clothing, in toys, in jewelry. And so they would just use these as bartering tools to the Spanish.
Mm.
To the Spanish, though, this was incredible because they were like,
Oh yeah.
these guys don't know what they have.
I don't know.
You know what was more valuable to the native people of South America than gold?
Salt.
Bird feathers.
Oh,
Bird feathers.
okay.
They would make astonishing robes out of like really rare bird feathers.
That's cool.
And the bird feathers were harder to collect than the gold was. And so
I bet, yeah.
these bird robes were more valuable to the Incans than the gold was.
Mhm.
And so they would barter the gold willingly.
Okay.
This fucking it made the Europeans insanely thirsty for gold.
I bet.
And the things that they were being presented, the records say that this was more beautiful art made out of gold and silver than anybody else in the world could produce. Basically, these guys had come from like Italy and Spain and France, where they considered the greatest artists in the world. They had also explored like the Middle East and Asia, right? But this was their first time in South America. And they said the art made out of gold here is better than anywhere else in the world
Because it was shiny.
because it was so shiny. And when they reached the capital, which is today Mexico City, I'm not gonna try to pronounce the name. I'll try to pronounce the name, yeah,
Here we go.
but I'm gonna get it wrong. It's
No way.
it's something like I'm not gonna. It's like Tenochtitlan or something like that. You can read it for yourself.
Okay.
Google Incan capital city
Yeah.
or original city that Mexico City is built on.
Okay.
But it was this incredible stone city built on a lake with paved roads, towers, arenas, marketplaces. Like it was extremely advanced.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
It was. And at the time, people estimate that it was actually, at the time, the most populated city in the world.
Okay.
In the world.
Wow.
Like bigger than Rome, bigger than Paris. What's today Mexico City? And Mexico City today is still one of the most populous cities in the world.
Okay.
It could have been like 15 million people lived there at the time.
Damn.
It's like some insane amount. When you think about how Hernan Cortez and the conquistadors came to South America and conquered these people, you probably think like, oh, these guys were rolling through like tribes and huts and, you know, tearing these guys apart. No, they came into like a fully developed society, like fortified society with temples and armies and guards. Like it's incredible.
Yeah.
The society that was already here in South America. You may have even heard that the stones that the Incans used to build their cities are like perfectly formed. Like they fit together perfectly. Like
Okay.
you can't even slide a piece of paper between them. Have you ever heard this?
No.
You could look it up. You can Google it. But people aren't quite sure how they did this other than to say like these guys were master stone cutters
I bet.
and master builders. And they didn't use any, what do you call it? The stuff that you put between the bricks, the like the mortar or the pestle or whatever. You know, like the paste that you put to lay the bricks on.
Concrete?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, what holds the stone to
Yeah.
the place. They didn't use any of that stuff.
Wow.
They actually just stacked the rocks, and the rocks fit so perfectly that they're just locked in.
So that means they must have had some type of understanding of physics.
And geometry,
Yeah.
and
Just knowing that it wouldn't, fall over.
the craftsmanship was just beyond expert level.
I love stuff like that because I feel like it really causes people to freak out because they assume that people weren't advanced back then, and that's when you get stuff like ancient aliens and all that jazz. But
Side note.
people were advanced.
Yes. It is said that 85 to 95% of the population of this society was wiped out by smallpox. And I would just take a moment to let that sink in. This civilization was fully developed and here in South America for hundreds of thousands of years.
Was
And 95% of the people died just 500 years ago from disease brought by European explorers.
That's what I was gonna ask. Was it the?
Yeah, it was the
Explorers.
Spanish. It was the Spanish who came and brought smallpox. It's a part of history at this
Yeah.
point. I mean, it's 500 years ago. So this is before anybody watching this podcast, before our great grandparents were born. It's I mean, it's one of those facts of history that's just like so staggering, but it's like,
I mean, stuff like that happened a lot. I mean, look at America, Native Americans and stuff.
happens all the time, unfortunately.
Sadly,
So these cities, mostly there were like two capital cities, the one in what is now Mexico and another one, I believe, in what is today Peru. There were these two cities, and then all of this gold was found. And so these rumors of like, man, these cities are really nice. Man, there's a lot of gold here. And the locals themselves had stories about this golden city.
okay.
Gave birth to the story of El Dorado.
Mm.
This was like in the 1500s, the 1600s, right? So about 300 years later, Percy Fawcett is exploring South America and he's mapping it out. Just mapping it out, sometimes being the first European to explore these parts of the jungle ever.
Okay.
First guy ever. And now he's hearing stories about this golden city. But he doesn't call it El Dorado. He gives it another city. Zed.
Zed.
Which is just the letter Z. But
Yeah.
That's how you say it in
In British.
Old English.
They still, I mean, even Australia, they say Zed.
Oh, well, there you go. I guess in America, we're weird. We say Z.
Yeah.
So in 1924, he decides to make a trip to find this city.
Okay.
And he brings just two people with him. He's going real light. But he disappears on the trip and is never seen again. And he brings his son with him, who also disappears on the trip. And is never
Okay.
seen again. The three people, they just vanish. And so nobody ever finds out what happened to Percy Fawcett. And that's kind of where the story, where the mystery kind of begins and
Okay.
ends. Because there's always been this question of, did something bad happen? Did he get killed by some natives? Like, people don't know. I'll give you some interesting, like, little tidbits.
Sure.
Some little clues where people have tried to piece together what may have happened to Percy Fawcett and this lost expedition when he was looking for the city of Zed.
I want to believe that he found the city of Zed and like Scrooge McDuck into like some gold coins or something.
Yeah, probably.
Him and his son.
Okay, so some clues to give you some hints as to what may have happened to Percy. First of
Okay.
all, I kind of glossed over that while he was researching the Amazon, he did find a manuscript known as Manuscript 512
Okay.
that was written by an explorer who had visited South America in 1753, who claimed to have found ruins of a city with arches and statues and
Okay.
hieroglyphs.
That's cool.
This is the
Golden arches.
Yeah, maybe. The city's location was undisclosed. So this is what Percy was looking for
Yeah.
when he thought he was looking for the city of Zed. On May 29th, 1925, he wrote a letter. This was his last known correspondence. He wrote it to his wife. It was delivered by some like local runners who were able to like get it to her. It was from a location known as Dead Horse Camp. Percy had explored the Amazon previously, and his horse had died
Mm-hmm.
at this location on a previous expedition. And so he set up a camp there and named it Dead Horse Camp. He wrote from Dead Horse Camp that, just telling his wife about the hardships and the things he was facing, but told her, you need have no fear of any failure, because he was confident that he was going to be successful in his endeavors. He was never heard from again.
Oh, never trust a manuscript.
Yeah. So his companion, who I said had gone with him on several occasions, his name was Henry Costin. Henry had not gone with him on this final expedition,
Ooh.
but he had, in his opinion, said that Percy was so good with the locals, he doubts that he was killed. He thinks that Percy disappearing probably means he ran out of food or died of exhaustion.
There's so many ways you can die in that type of environment
Yes.
that it's hard to yeah.
That being said, Percy, when he went on this expedition, gave strict orders to anybody back at home. He says, if I don't come back, don't come looking for me,
Oh shit.
because I don't want you to suffer the same fate that befell me. That being said, one man did go looking for him, whose name is not known to history, but all we know is that this guy also died. So the warning was true. Don't go looking for Percy or you will suffer the same fate.
Don't go chasing waterfalls.
In 1951, please stick to the rivers and the lakes that you used to. About 26 years later, some local tribes in South America claimed to have the bones of Percy Fawcett and said that, their stories kind of changed. It was like, oh, we didn't kill him, but we know who did. But oh yeah, we killed him. But he was, he was hitting on my wife. But the stories changed back and forth. The bones were tested by scientists, but were determined not to be a part of Percy Fawcett's family.
Okay.
So that story was bogus. Another explorer who went looking for Percy, a Danish explorer named Arne Falk Rohn, journeyed there in the 60s.
Sorry, I made such a weird face when you said that name. I didn't want to offend anyone who has a weird name like
Arne
that.
Falk Rohn.
I literally went like,
yeah,
Arne. It's like, oh.
He went looking for Percy in the 60s and found a local tribe who told him a story that Percy's boat had suffered an accident while on the river, and they had dropped all their treasure into the water and were unable to retrieve it.
Oh.
And later on, when they had come to a tribe and asked for hospitality without having any treasures to trade, it was seen as like highly disrespectful. So the three men were killed.
I can see that.
It says that the two younger companions were thrown into the river, but Percy, being older at this time, considered dignified, was given a proper burial. This is an unconfirmed story, but this is something that is circulated among the people.
Yeah.
It's like an oral tradition that's passed down in the area.
I mean, it makes the most sense.
Yeah. In 1979, check this out. Percy's ring showed up in a pawn shop.
Whoa. Where?
In South America.
Wow. They pawned his shit.
What is that? It's like 54 years later.
Damn.
54. That to me is the most fascinating part, because this guy in 1925 went looking for a lost city of gold, disappeared, and 54 years later, his ring shows up in a pawn shop. What's that about?
I don't know. Someone must have found it in the dirt or something.
A new theory was formulated after the ring surfaced that Fawcett and his companions may have been killed by bandits and their bodies dumped after they were looted.
I have a new theory. They want to start a new life.
You think they made it?
Yeah, I think they pretended like they died so they could be together. It's my head.
Yeah. The most recent searches for Percy Fawcett were in 2003 and 2004.
Okay.
A couple of documentary filmmakers went down to try to find his story. They were unable to come to any conclusions other than they also believe that the team was killed by some local primitive tribes.
Okay.
All that being said, we don't know what happened to Percy Fawcett, but we do have satellite images of South America. I don't have them here today to show you, but in the 100 years since Percy went exploring, looking for the lost city of Z, we've actually flown satellites over the area that he was exploring. And you know what we found?
Death.
Do you think the city exists or not?
El Dorado or Zed? It's hard to say. I would say no. I'm going to play contrarian.
Well, you're half right.
Oh.
El Dorado and the city made out of gold itself does not exist in the way that Europeans thought it did. It wasn't like there weren't structures made out of gold.
Yeah.
But satellite images did find evidence of a super city
Oh,
in the Amazon, deep within it.
that's cool.
They found these trenches that they never paid attention to for hundreds of years. But once they look at them from the sky, they can see that these trenches are actually foundational trenches that were cut so that people could build walls for temples, arenas, pavilions.
Wow.
Not only that, they had roads that connected vast swaths of the jungle together.
Mhm.
So I call it a super city because it was actually a connection of several smaller village communes that were all connected within a network of roads and walls. And they say that like up to 50 million people could have been living in this network.
It sounds like they built like a little city, maybe like a marketplace. kind of
Multiple
situation.
cities,
Oh.
roads. They would actually section off parts of the jungle
Okay.
with wooden fences so that they could harvest animals and crops in the jungle without
Oh.
disrupting the jungle.
That's cool.
One of the problems that scientists had for years, they didn't think a city existed because the Amazon was not fertile. You couldn't grow anything. You couldn't grow crops in the soil because it wasn't good for crops. But they found that the tribes could make the crops fertile themselves on purpose using human waste to fertilize it. And so they would specifically fertilize certain parts of the forest. And these super cities did exist. And they were bountiful with food, bountiful with, probably did have gold workers working there, I would assume, if gold was really that prevalent. But I think more the Golden City was that there was so much opportunity and it was just a good place to live and a good place to have a life, which is why it may have been known as the Golden City. What are you going to say?
Something stupid.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say the Golden City was the friendship we made on the way.
It was. The only thing is, these cities were made to not impact the landscape too much. So all of the buildings were made out of wood. So over time, as I previously mentioned in this episode, 95% of the population, up to 95% of the population could have disappeared due to disease. These cities just became abandoned and eventually eroded to time.
Oh, yeah.
The wooden walls crumbled. They weren't made out of stone. And all that remains are the ditches and grooves and foundation that was cut. And it was basically all grown over. The jungle took it back. And that is why Percy Fawcett was never able to find the city. He was probably right on top of it and never had any idea.
I love stuff like that. You'd be surprised how quick just like cities can crumble when no one's there. I watched like a History Channel show on it. It was talking about like what would happen if humans went extinct, like how quickly. I mean, you can see with Chernobyl, it's just like
the plants just grow back and take everything over.
And the buildings just crumble.
So that's it. That's the story.
Okay. That was fun. I enjoyed that.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I want to find the city.
He said not to follow him, dude.
Yeah, well, we followed him from space.
Yeah, I mean, they cut down so much of the Amazon. It's probably easy. Probably just walk in.
Yeah, what do you think about today's story? Leave a comment in the chat below if you enjoyed it, and be sure to follow us on social media at Make a Strange Podcast on Instagram and Make a Strange 666 on Twitter.
Yes.
We'll be back next Saturday with a brand new episode. Until then, stay strange, everybody.
Good night.